My best friend is a top-tier alpha, but he has a problem. He suffers from pheromone overload. If he doesn't release the excess, it could actually put his life in danger. So, as a beta, I volunteered to help him out. After all, I'm just a beta. His pheromones won't stay in my system for more than a couple of days anyway. But as time went on, my best friend started biting my neck every now and then. I mean, seriously, has this condition gotten that bad? Bro, if you keep doing that, people are gonna start getting the wrong idea about us. Welcome to Avenor BL, where words whisper love and hearts find warmth. You're listening to an original BL story, brought to life through voice and emotion. Let your heart rest, and let the story begin. My name is Ryan. I'm a beta, and my friend, his name is Logan. He's a top alpha, but he's got this one flaw: pheromone overload. If he doesn't release the excess pheromones in time, it could literally threaten his life. Ever since he differentiated at 20, he's had to lock himself in his room once a month to let the extra pheromones dissipate. When he finally comes out, he always complains to me about how awful it feels, being trapped in there alone, fighting through the pain. Later, I went to a hospital to ask the doctor if there was another way to help him. Turns out, there was a simpler solution. He could release the pheromones by marking someone. That made sense, but he's an alpha. He can't just go around marking random omegas for treatment. That'd be completely irresponsible. Then I came up with a genius idea: why not let Logan mark me instead? I mean, I'm a beta. Alpha pheromones won't linger in my system anyway. It wouldn't hurt me and it'd help him. Perfect plan, right? I'm basically a genius. When I told Logan my idea, he agreed right away without hesitation. And that's how it started, our little treatment sessions, every week without fail. Today's Friday, the first weekend of our new routine. I suggested that he mark me once a week so he could release a bit of pheromone each time, which would make things easier by the end of the month. Now, I'm sitting in his apartment off campus, waiting for Logan to mark me so he can let some of it out. His parents rented this place for him. It's where he stays once a month to handle his condition in private. I haven't really been here much myself. I mean, we grew up together, but we're adults now. If he ever wanted to bring someone else over, me hanging around would just make things awkward. Still, for the next few weekends, I'll be staying here with him. See, when a beta gets marked by an alpha, they temporarily carry that alpha's pheromone scent. It fades faster on betas than on omegas, but people with sensitive noses can still pick up on it. And, just to be clear, Logan and I are strictly in a medical arrangement. If anyone finds out I've got another alpha's scent on me, my love life would be doomed. To avoid that kind of misunderstanding, we decided I'd stay at Logan's place for 2 days after each session. That way, the scent would fade by Monday, and I could go back to class like nothing happened. Everything was planned perfectly. "Logan, come on already," I said from the couch, looking at him beside me. "It's Friday. If you transfer your pheromones now, I've got 2 whole days for them to wear off before classes start again." I turned around, offering my neck without hesitation. Maybe I turned too fast because I didn't notice the shadow that passed through Logan's eyes. A moment passed. Then another. He still didn't move. Just as I was about to ask what was taking so long, he grabbed my arms and pulled me back against him. He pressed his forehead against my shoulder and whispered, "It might feel a little uncomfortable." I could feel the steady rhythm of his breathing against my back. Something about that closeness didn't feel right. I tried to break free, forcing a laugh. "Hey, I can handle a little discomfort. Just hurry up, before it gets dark." Logan's expression darkened. Then he turned me around again, this time holding me firmly, and leaned closer. The moment his teeth pressed against my neck, I froze. The sensation of pheromones flowing into my body wasn't exactly pleasant. It was like something cool and weightless was streaming through my veins. As a beta, I shouldn't be able to feel an alpha's pheromones. But right then I could smell his scent. Logan's pheromones smelled like roses. Not the strong kind, but soft and subtle, gentle and strangely comforting. He had told me before that his scent was like roses, but I'd never been able to sense it. Because I'm a beta. A beta can't smell or respond to alpha or omega pheromones. Back then, I used to wish I'd become an omega instead, just so I could experience what his scent was like. but differentiation usually happens by age 20. I didn't change at 20, or 21, or 22. By now, I've accepted that I'll always just be a beta. After that, Logan stopped mentioning his scent. Half-dazed, I found myself thinking, lucky alphas and omegas always smelling naturally nice. They must save a fortune on cologne. Ryan, what are you thinking about? Nothing, just wondering what to eat for lunch, I said. I was walking with my roommate toward the cafeteria. That Friday, right after Logan marked me, I fainted. I'd never heard of a beta passing out from an alpha's marking before. Was Logan's pheromone just too strong for me to handle? When I woke up, the first thing I saw was his worried face hovering over me. I tried to tell him I was fine, but the sharp sting in my neck distracted me. When I touched the spot, I felt the fresh bite mark, still warm. Ow! Logan, are you part dog or what? You bit way too hard. He actually sighed in relief when he heard me complaining, ignoring my grumbling entirely. All right, my bad. I'll be gentler next time. How are you feeling now? His voice was serious, full of concern, which only made me feel more embarrassed. I'm fine. It's bearable. Ryan, if you feel any discomfort, promise me you'll tell me right away. I'll take you to the hospital if I have to. He looked straight at me, so sincere I couldn't even joke about it. Really, I'm fine. Just make me something good to eat this weekend and we'll call it even. He sighed softly, almost smiling. All right, just sit tight. Then he turned and headed for the kitchen. Logan's a man of his word. He spent the whole weekend fussing over me, cooking, cleaning, doing everything I asked. I felt like royalty in his apartment. When I touched my neck later, the skin was smooth again. That mark sure faded fast. Suddenly, my roommate Damien pointed at me during lunch. Ryan, something's up with you. I blinked. What? Don't play dumb. You were just touching your neck and smiling like an idiot. Spill it. Did you fall for someone? Come on, tell me. I'll help you get together. That's Damien for you, our dorm's biggest gossip. Doesn't matter if someone's an alpha, beta, or omega, he somehow knows everyone and ends up playing matchmaker for half the couples on campus. Funny thing is, he's still single himself. I laughed and shook my head. No, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Come on. You can tell me. I didn't budge, so he kept pestering me about it the rest of the day. But really, there's no way Logan and I could ever be together. When Logan differentiated at 20, he wasn't just any alpha. He turned out to be an elite alpha, an extremely rare type prone to pheromone overload. That condition means his body produces too many pheromones. If they aren't released in time, it could cause mental instability and even endanger his life. After the diagnosis, the doctor told him it'd be best to find an omega partner. An omega could help stabilize his pheromone levels naturally, through daily contact and emotional bonding, making it easier for him to manage the overload. In this world, alphas and omegas are considered the perfect match. As a beta, I never stood a chance. I'm a little younger than Logan, and when I first heard he'd need an omega someday, I remember wishing, just for a second, that I could be one. After all, both of us were born from alpha-omega parents, which made it more likely for us to become either alpha or omega ourselves. Back then, I was so sure I'd turn out to be an omega. That year, Logan had just gone through his differentiation, and his body was still weak. Because he was a top-tier alpha, he was kept in the hospital for endless medical tests and monitoring. When I went to visit him, I said bluntly, Logan, don't worry. I'll probably differentiate in a few months. If I turn out to be an omega, your condition won't be a problem anymore. You can just bond with me. Logan laughed brightly. All right, Ryan, you'd better not go back on your word. Oh, and my pheromones smell like roses. When you differentiate, you'll be able to smell them. I waved him off and replied, no way I'd back out. Also, Logan, your pheromones do have a really unique scent. But the truth was, I never showed any signs of differentiating. Even now, I'm still just a beta. At first, my family and Logan both tried to comfort me, saying maybe it was just a delayed differentiation. Later, I went to the hospital for tests, but the doctors all said the same thing. There was no sign of change in my hormone levels. Everything was perfectly normal. which meant that I was, in all likelihood, just a beta. Because of that, the promise I made to Logan, to help him recover once I became an omega, just faded away. He never brought it up again, and neither did I. Eventually, we both silently let that promise dissolve into the past. If Logan were just a regular alpha, maybe I could have chased after him as a beta and it wouldn't have been impossible for us to be together. But Logan wasn't just any alpha, he was a top alpha, burdened with an unstable pheromone condition. He needed an omega partner, someone who could stabilize him. If I got too close, I might actually put his life in danger. So, I decided to stay by his side only as a friend. That seemed like the safest thing to do. Later, maybe Logan sensed what I was thinking. He started to casually complain about how hard it was to suppress his pheromones every month. I wasn't an alpha, so I couldn't really understand his pain. But he brought it up so many times, more than once or twice, that I started trying to find a way to help him. That's when I came up with the idea. I suggested that maybe he could mark me temporarily to help release some of his overloaded pheromones. But last weekend, right after Logan marked me, I blacked out. I still don't know what's going to happen next. I guess I'll just take it one step at a time. Time passed quickly. Before I knew it, it was already Friday, my last session this month to help Logan manage his condition. I was sprawled on his living room sofa, exhausted from classes. Turning my head toward him, I said, "Logan, today's the last time this month I'll help you with your treatment. Next weekend, when you stay home to release your pheromones naturally, see if it feels any better. That'll tell us whether our method actually works." Logan looked up at me and smiled. "I know. I'm sure it's working. You'd better be ready to stay by my side for a long time, Ryan." I waved a hand dismissively. "Of course. That's what good friends are for, right?" He gave me a long look and sighed softly. "Yeah, good friends." He emphasized the words a little too much. "What? You're complaining even though I'm helping you?" I teased. He laughed. "No, I'm not. I'm actually really happy." I couldn't do anything but smile helplessly and say, all right, let's just get started." Thankfully, ever since then, I hadn't fainted again when Logan marked me. Even better, no one had discovered our little secret agreement. Next week was Logan's monthly pheromone release. I couldn't stop wondering whether our approach, having him mark me to regulate his pheromone levels, would actually work. "Ryan, what's up with you lately?" my friend Damien asked, throwing an arm over my shoulder. "You've been spacing out a lot. The professor called on you earlier, and if I hadn't nudged you, you'd still be off in your own world." "Nothing," I said quickly. I just couldn't stop thinking about how Logan would handle this weekend alone. Would it hurt less this time? Would it finally help him? Honestly, I cared about the result even more than Logan did. "Hey, Damien," I asked suddenly, "do you think alphas can only bond with omegas?" "Why are you asking that? Don't tell me you've fallen for a female alpha or something." I didn't even have time to answer before he went on dramatically, "Oh wait, you disappear every weekend. Don't tell me you've got a secret alpha girlfriend." "That's not it," I protested. "I'm serious, just answer me properly." All right, he said, chuckling. "Alphas and omegas are the traditional pairing. It's been that way in our society forever. Most couples I know are either AO or BB. Sure, there are a few alpha-beta or beta-omega couples, but it's rare. Pheromone imbalance makes it tough for them to last. Most end up separating. So, Ryan, if you ask me, we betas are better off with other betas." He patted my shoulder firmly, as if giving sage advice. "You're right," I murmured. "I know that. I just needed someone to remind me again." My last words were barely above a whisper. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Logan. Logan says, "Ryan, this time my pheromone release felt a lot better than before." I reply, "Really?" Logan says, "Yeah. Looks like I'll need to keep bothering you for my treatments from now on." I reply, "No problem." I had been fighting the urge to text him all week, to ask how he was doing. When I finally got his message, it felt like a weight had lifted off my chest. If my method could really help him, then that was all that mattered. After talking with Damien, I started to think more seriously. The biggest obstacle between Logan and me was simple: he was an alpha, and I was a beta. Even if fate never brought him his destined omega, the fact that only an omega could truly stabilize his pheromone disorder proved that he and I could never really be together. After going over it again and again, I concluded that staying friends was best. Going further wasn't an option. But stepping back, I didn't want that either. It was a little bitter, but that's what love is: irrational, impossible, and stubborn. Once you fall, you can't escape the ache that comes with it. So that's how it went. From the cool days of early autumn to the scorching heat of summer, I'd been helping Logan manage his condition for over half a year. When we went home for the break, we agreed no marking during holidays or someone might notice. No one could know about our arrangement. To be honest, I didn't feel much from being marked anymore. But Logan, he'd been acting more and more clingy lately, to the point where it almost felt like we were dating, living together. We were both in the final semester of our junior year with fewer classes. Using that as an excuse, Logan suggested increasing the frequency of our sessions. More markings per week would help stabilize things, he said. And so, he started marking me several times a week. Once, not long after he'd marked me, I got an urgent message that I had to attend a makeup lecture. I ended up sitting all the way in the back, keeping my head down the whole time. Thankfully, the person sitting next to me was a beta who couldn't sense pheromones. Otherwise, I'd never have been able to explain myself. Another time, Logan took me on a short trip to a nearby city. I thought that meant I'd get a break from being marked, but then he said, "Come on, Ryan. No one knows us here anyway. What's there to be afraid of? Besides, if we wait until we're back, it'll be too late for me to stabilize." I thought about it and realized he wasn't wrong. So I agreed. Later, while we were walking around, two girls stopped us and asked if we could take a photo for them. After we did, they looked at us with sparkling eyes and asked, "Are you two a couple on a trip together?" I was just about to deny it when Logan smiled and said, "Yeah, we are." I froze, staring at him in disbelief. "What did you just say?" The two girls giggled and walked off, chatting happily. I was still stunned when Logan turned to me and said calmly, "It's easier to say that we're a couple. People ask fewer questions that way." I studied his face for a moment. He looked completely serious. Finally, I sighed and muttered, "You really can talk your way out of anything." Then I looked away, refusing to meet his eyes. Still, when he said we were a couple, even if it was just to make things easier, I couldn't help but feel strangely warm inside. Ever since Logan and I came back from our trip, I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been teasing me on purpose, subtly, but definitely on purpose. Summer break was coming up, and last week, while I was sitting on the couch in his apartment, I told him that we needed to pause his treatment plan for a while. "Logan," I said, "we're leaving for the summer next week. Once we go home, you won't be able to mark me anymore. You'll have to hang in there for the next 2 months." The moment he heard that, Logan moved closer and sat right next to me. His arm brushed against mine before wrapping around me. Then he leaned in, his breath brushing against the side of my neck as he murmured, "But if I can't mark you for 2 whole months, it's going to be really hard for me." My heart skipped a beat, but I tried to play it cool. "You're exaggerating, aren't you?" Logan rested his chin on my shoulder, voice soft and muffled. "I'm not." The way he said it, so quiet, almost sulking, made him sound like he was pouting. The thought made me laugh before I could stop myself, and my resolve softened instantly. That was when I actually started considering whether it might be possible to keep helping him during the break. But before I could think it through, Logan suddenly said, "Ryan, why do you smell so good today?" I froze. Before I could even respond, he tilted his head and leaned in closer, nose brushing my neck as he took in a deep breath. After a moment he said, puzzled, "That's strange. It smells a bit like my scent, but really faint. My pheromones should have faded by now. Why do I still smell it on you?" Startled, I gently pushed him back a little, lowered my head, and sniffed myself. "I don't smell anything. You must be imagining it." Logan frowned, unconvinced, and leaned forward again, but I quickly stopped him. "It's fine," I said quickly. "I'm a beta. Any scent that faint will disappear soon anyway." That seemed to convince him enough to back off. Even though he kept joking about continuing the marking during vacation, once we were both home, Logan stuck to our agreement like he promised. From the beginning, I'd made it clear, no one could ever know that I, a beta, had been helping him by letting him mark me. After all, Logan was destined to find an Omega partner someday. If anyone found out about what we'd done, what would I say to his future partner? It was better if this secret stayed between the two of us forever. Otherwise, it would just end awkwardly for everyone involved. Even though Logan and I had grown closer lately, maybe even too close, I knew deep down that there could never be anything more between us. Still, I thought this strange arrangement of ours would last longer, at least until we graduated. But everything changed during that summer break. Something happened, something that broke whatever we had left. It started when I accidentally found out that Logan's condition hadn't improved at all. One evening, I was eating dinner at home when my mom brought it up. "Son," she said, "you go to the same university as Logan, right? You know about his condition. His mother's really worried that he's been pushing himself too hard. She asked me to check with you. How has he been doing lately?" I froze. Of course I knew how he'd been doing. No one knew better than me. Clearing my throat, I said, "Actually, yeah, I do know a bit. Logan told me his condition's been getting much better." My mom frowned. "Really? That's not what his mother said. Apparently, the doctors told her it's gotten worse. He went to the hospital a few days ago, and the results weren't good." My chopsticks stopped midair. That can't be right. Logan told me himself that he's been improving. She sighed softly. "He probably just didn't want you to worry. That illness of his can only be eased when an alpha marks an omega. It's difficult for people like him." After that, I barely heard what else she said. All I could think was, then the marking I've been letting him do didn't work at all. If that was true, why did Logan lie to me? I must have looked terrible because my mom gave me a concerned look. "Son, what's wrong? You're not worrying about Logan too, are you?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, I just didn't realize it was that serious." Then I lowered my head and kept eating quietly. But inside, I couldn't stop thinking. I wanted to ask Logan directly, but I knew how stubborn he could be. If I confronted him, he'd only brush it off. So instead, I went to find out from a doctor myself. That was when I learned the truth. Yes, an alpha can release built-up pheromones by marking a beta, but that only applies to ordinary alphas. Because betas don't have scent glands, the process doesn't fully work. When a regular alpha marks a beta, they can release about 30% of their pheromones. But when a top-tier alpha like Logan marks a beta, they release only around 5%. For someone like Logan, that meant his pheromones couldn't be expelled properly. It also explained why he'd been wanting to mark me more and more often. If his partner had been an omega, it would have been simple. No struggle, no side effects. In the end, it was my fault. I wasn't an omega. I hadn't even checked the facts before offering to help him like some clueless hero. When I realized that, I went straight to see him. "Logan," I said quietly, looking straight at him across the table, "I know everything. The marking didn't help you at all." He smiled faintly, as if trying to play it off. "Ryan, what are you talking about? I told you it's been working." "Don't lie to me. I know you went to the hospital last week. The doctors said your condition hasn't improved. I even asked a specialist. What we've been doing barely releases anything for a top alpha like you." Logan went silent for a moment, then finally sighed. "Fine. You're right. Marking you didn't really help." The admission hit me harder than I expected. Felt like the air left the room. "Then," I said, forcing a steady voice, "our agreement ends here. I won't help you with the treatment anymore." Logan's expression tensed. "Ryan, don't say that. I've already found a research institute that developed a method for top alphas to release pheromones safely through marking betas. We can try." "Enough," I interrupted sharply. "Don't be reckless. Those so-called institutes aren't even legal. Promise me you won't go there." He gave a bitter laugh. "Reckless? Ryan, if I hadn't pretended to be miserable every month, telling you how hard it was to deal with this alone, would you have even remembered me?" "Logan, when I first differentiated as an alpha and you stayed a beta, You promised you'd stay by my side. But then you started pulling away. You think I didn't notice? My chest tightened. What do you expect me to do, Logan? Risk your health by staying too close to you? Alphas and betas rarely last, even in normal cases. How could we? You're a top alpha. It's too dangerous for you. He clenched his fists, voice trembling between anger and pain. You always do this. You make decisions for both of us, and you never think about how I feel. Ryan, he said finally, voice softening, please, just trust me once. Enough. I cut him off, louder than I intended. Don't go to that place. Just listen to your mom. Find an Omega who can really help you, all right? For a second, I thought I saw something in his eyes flicker, hurt, anger, something deeper. Then he laughed bitterly. Fine, he said coldly. If that's what you want, Ryan, remember you're the one who said it. And with that, he turned and walked away. That was the last time we spoke. Since then, Logan and I have stopped talking altogether. I was a little worried that Logan might actually go to that so-called research institute, so I quietly asked my mom to check with his mother about how he was doing. But according to her, Logan seemed perfectly fine. Whether that was true or not, I couldn't tell. Then my mom leaned closer to me, sniffed lightly, and said, Ryan, why are you asking me to find out about Logan? Don't you two see each other all the time? No, I haven't seen him for days, I said. Don't lie. If that's true, why can I still smell his scent on you? My heart skipped a beat. For a second, I thought she'd found out that I'd let Logan mark me before. I forced out a nervous laugh and said, maybe it just rubbed off accidentally. Strange. Why did everyone keep saying I carried traces of an alpha's scent? I hadn't been anywhere near Logan since the holidays. My mom muttered to herself, wondering if the two of us had had a fight. Afraid she'd keep pressing, I quickly said I was tired and went back to my room. And to be fair, I wasn't lying. Ever since that argument with Logan, I'd been feeling exhausted. I slept too much and couldn't seem to regain my strength. Maybe it was just emotional burnout. I thought it was nothing serious, but a few days later, I suddenly collapsed at home. That's when I found out something truly shocking. The test results show that your body has started to exhibit early signs of secondary differentiation, the doctor said softly. I blinked at him, confused. But I've been tested plenty of times before. I've always been a beta. How could I suddenly start showing Omega traits? The doctor hesitated, then explained, your earlier test results were correct. However, it's possible that a strong alpha's pheromones triggered a secondary change in your body. But don't alpha pheromones usually have little effect on betas? He gave me a measured look. That's true for most people. But your parents, aren't they an alpha-omega pair? I turned and saw my parents nodding. Yes, they are. Then it's not impossible, he continued. In alpha-omega families, most children are either alpha or omega, though a few remain undifferentiated as betas. But if one of those betas meets an alpha whose pheromones are highly compatible, and repeated contact occurs, secondary differentiation can happen. I just stared at him, speechless. Wait, that can actually happen? He smiled faintly. It's rare, but it does. And in your case, there's about an 80% chance that your new pheromone type will resemble that of the alpha who triggered it. Before I could process that, he added, given your age and circumstances, it would be best to have that alpha assist you through the differentiation process. It's safer that way. My head dropped lower and lower as he spoke. It was over. There was no way I could hide it now. I could feel both my parents' eyes boring into me. Just a few days ago, I told Logan to find another Omega, and now I was turning into one myself. The universe clearly had a twisted sense of humor. Ryan, be honest with us. Who's that alpha? My mom asked, folding her arms and glaring at me. Her tone made my stomach twist. My dad put an arm around her shoulders, trying to calm her down. I took a breath and said quietly, it's Logan. My mom grabbed my ear immediately. I knew it. I had a feeling it was him. Ryan, really? You let Logan mark you? Mom, ow. That hurts. And there are people watching. All right, honey, calm down, my dad said gently, pulling her hand away. I'm sure Ryan had his reasons. Finally released, I told them everything, how I'd let Logan mark me to help him recover when he was sick. Ryan, my mom said, frowning deeply, do you think you're safe as a beta dealing with a top-tier alpha like him? Tell me honestly, how far did it go between you two? I swear, it was just a neck bite. She sighed heavily, then finally decided, we'll call Logan. If he caused this, he'll help you through it. Life sure had a sense of irony. Just a few days ago, I told him to stay away. Now I had no choice but to rely on him. That night, I was admitted to the hospital. The next day, Logan arrived. He didn't look much different, but he didn't say anything either. I was lying in bed, watching him in silence. The awkwardness between us was almost unbearable. I tried to break the tension. Logan, you didn't actually go to that institute, did you? Great. Now it was even more awkward. Logan gave me a sidelong glance. No. I took someone's advice and found an omega that suits me just fine. Something in my chest tightened. I forced a smile. That was fast. Congratulations, then. He sighed softly. Ryan, you really are slow, aren't you? What do you mean? Logan stood up and took my hand, his expression somewhere between teasing and serious. The omega I found hasn't even differentiated yet. Does that make it clearer? I looked up at him, and his grin told me everything. I tried to hide the rush of warmth in my chest. Yeah, I said quietly. I think I get it now. His voice dropped lower. Ryan, if you really do become an omega this time, does what you said before still count? About letting me mark you for Real? I didn't answer, but my face burned red. Of course it still counted. If it hadn't, I never would have let him mark me in the first place. After that, the distance between us melted away. Logan's voice grew gentler. Ryan, I know this whole thing happened because of me. But don't worry, I'll take responsibility. I started to say something soft, but then remembered all those times he'd pretended to be pitiful just to get my sympathy. I crossed my arms and muttered, Good. You'd better take responsibility. Logan just laughed and suddenly pulled me into his arms. I blinked up at him. So what are you here for today? The doctor said my pheromones could help stabilize your condition before the full transformation, he explained. That's my main job now, to stay close and help you adjust. Even if you can't sense it yet. I murmured, well, maybe soon I will. The air between us grew warm and quiet, filled with something tender and unspoken. Then, suddenly, I remembered something and couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? Logan asked. I grinned. Do you remember when we were in second grade? I didn't want to go to school that day, so you hid my favorite action figure and told me I'd get it back once we were there. But when we got to school, you refused to give it back. He raised a brow. I do vaguely recall that. I continued laughing. During morning assembly, I was standing right in front of you in line, begging you for it. Logan, where's my toy? You promised. And you said, school rules, no toys allowed. Now turn around. But I wouldn't stop asking. The teacher caught us, pulled us out in front of everyone, and told us to stay exactly like that. Me clinging to you. Kind of like right now, huh? Logan chuckled helplessly. Yeah, that was probably the first time I ever got scolded at school. Well, it wasn't my fault, I said, mock defensive. You shouldn't have taken my favorite toy. He hugged me a little tighter and smiled. All right, my fault. And just like that, with Logan by my side, I started preparing for the transformation I should have gone through years ago. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Eventually, I completed my secondary differentiation, and through it all, Logan never once left my side.
The story ends here. Below are my thoughts and comments on it. And that was the story of Ryan and Logan, a story that begins with friendship, but slowly blurs the line between duty and desire. What really stands out to me is how the author uses the idea of pheromone imbalance, not just as a fantasy concept, but as a metaphor for emotional dependence. The more Ryan tries to help Logan, the more they both lose control, not over their bodies, but over their hearts. I also like how their bond develops quietly, through care, through small acts of sacrifice, until you realize this isn't just friendship anymore. It's something deeper, something neither of them knows how to name. If there's one thing that could be better, it's pacing. The middle chapters repeat certain moments that could have been tighter. But the emotional payoff at the end makes it worth it. What I love most is how the story asks, can love exist when the world says it shouldn't? And more than that, when helping someone starts to hurt you, is it still love or something else entirely? So what do you think? Was Ryan's decision brave or foolish? And did Logan really love him, or was it just dependence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story stayed with you like it did with me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that explore the line between control and connection.